Alright, so in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to create duplicate images from a sketch that you did on paper. So the first thing you need to do is make sure, of course, that your paper on your Sketchbook app is in full view. You're not zoomed in or zoomed out too far. Don't forget to use your tools. My tools look a little different because I have the Sketchbook Pro and you guys have the free version. So the first thing that we need to do, of course, is add a picture. Your picture tool is going to be along the top in that toolbar. Mine is in the layers toolbar. So I want to add a picture of the image that I drew on paper first. So make sure that you do have that picture drawn out first and you've used your laptop to take that picture. So once you insert the picture, I like to center it on the screen so that way I can see it. Be aware that when you add a picture into your sketchbook, it's going to create a new layer for that picture. So please make sure that whatever layer you're going to draw on, that you use a different layer than the one with your picture. Okay. In fact, I like to drag the layer that I'm drawing on top of the image of my picture that I drew on paper, so that way I can see exactly what it is that I'm tracing. So I suggest that you use maybe like the paintbrush tool and make your line a little bit thicker than normal so that way you can see it, and go ahead and just trace your entire drawing of your image onto the sketchbook. I suggest you be really careful when you're tracing your lines. You can use like the smoothing tool so that way if you have a wiggly line like I do, it kind of smooths it out for you. Be careful if you have a touch screen that if your palm touches the screen, that it doesn't mess up the drawing when you're drawing with your stylus. I like to rotate my image only because I have to. I can only draw a certain direction, and so it kind of helps me make sure that I can see everything that I need to draw. Again, make sure you're tracing it as best as you can, as smoothly as you can, as nicely as you can, so that way when you go to color, it's going to look really nice and neat. Another thing I suggest is make sure that all of your lines, if you have a line that connects to create a sort of shape, please make sure that you do connect those lines. Close all of the gaps, because if you have any gaps open, when you go to fill in or to color in any of that information, when you color your picture, it's going to end up filling in the whole entire image instead of just that space. Okay, so here I've got my picture drawn out, it's traced out, and you can see in my layers box that I have my picture layer. I've turned it off so I don't see it. I only see the layer that I've traced, and then I created a next layer, a third layer, where I'm going to be adding my color. And the reason why I do this is so that way I can kind of see what I need to be coloring in without coloring over the lines that I did for my drawing. So I've moved my layer 3 up to the top, or it starts here at the top, and what I need to do is I need to move it underneath the layer of the tracing of my image. So here I'm trying to move it. Be very careful that when you do move it, it doesn't move it too far underneath. We don't want it underneath the image of our drawing. We just want it underneath the layer of when we traced the image. Okay, and so this kind of allows me to color, but I'm still able to see all of the lines that I'm like coloring inside of. It kind of doesn't cover up the lines. If you color on the same layer, what ends up happening is that it covers up and colors your black lines that you traced. Okay, and here, since you're coloring in on a different layer, you don't have to worry too much about it being too perfect. You'll see that I kind of go through and I go back and I color over spaces and I erase spaces that went out of the lines, so that way it looks nice and neat. Okay, like right here with the T, you can see I colored in with the orange first, and then I covered over on top with the bluish purple color. Okay, and there is movie magic here. I'm not coloring this fast. I don't color this fast. It took me about 20 minutes to color. So please make sure that you understand that this is movie magic and it's sped up. I don't color this fast. Be mindful of your colors as well. Try to add in those highlights and those shadows to make it look 3D We don't want our object to look like a cartoon per se. Okay. All right, so here I'm kind of just going over looking at the image itself. I've colored in the whole entire thing. I'm just kind of taking a look at it, readjusting my paper, my little space, my drawing space on my Sketchbook app. What I'm doing here is I'm gonna kind of just look at what my coloring looks like without the lines, and it looks pretty good. So I'm actually gonna combine my layers. I'm gonna merge them together. And so the way we do this is when you click on the center of your layer and you drag your mouse downwards, it'll give you these little options for you to use. And so I want to click and drag down, so that way it merges that layer, and now I just have one layer for my drawing and then my one layer for my image. In fact, the image drawing, I don't need it anymore, so I actually delete it. So same thing, click and drag, but you're gonna drag up to the top right at an angle, and it allows you to delete it. Okay, so now I just have my one layer, and I'm gonna use this one layer to kind of move my object, my image, off to the top left corner. Okay, and so I'm gonna use my little selector tool. I'm gonna select the space that I want to move, and then I'm gonna adjust it and move it to the position that I want it. Okay. You might need to adjust the size of it, make it bigger or smaller, just so that way you could have 2 rows. Keep in mind, we are doing repetition. We are repeating our object more than once. So we want it to look similar to like a pattern, but it's only one single object repeating. It's not multiple objects. Okay, we'll turn it into a pattern when we change our colors, and I'll show you guys how to change those colors quickly without having to recolor everything. Okay, so here, now that I've got it moved up to the top left corner, you can see I'm working in my layer 5. Don't add another layer to paste your image in there, but there's a trick to it, to copy and paste it. So if you have your area selected that you want to copy, all you have to do is on your keyboard, click Control and the letter C, click those 2 buttons, and it will copy what you have selected for you. Okay, and then to paste it, you have to click Control V. All right, I'll write that out for you here on the screen in just a few minutes. That way you can have it there for you to remember. Okay, now we're going to change the color. So in the free version of the Sketchbook app, you guys have a tool along the top. It looks like 3 circles that kind of overlap with each other, and this is in the top row toolbar. You guys in the free version have this tool up there. In the pro version, I do not have it in my little toolbar. Okay, so in the pro version, it's a little bit different. So make sure you're on the layer that you're going to be changing the color for. So I want to make sure I'm on my layer 2 and not on my layer 5, because I'm actually going backwards. My layer 2 is the layer that I want to change. Up at the top, I'm going to click on Image, then I'm going to click Adjust, and then I'm going to click the hue and saturation. Okay, and it's going to pop up with a little window for you to adjust the hue, the saturation, and the lightness. And once you start adjusting those, it'll show you like a little preview. Unfortunately, when I recorded my screen for this video, it didn't show me that little pop-up window. But as you can see, when I adjust all that information, it actually changes all the colors for me, and I don't have to go back and paint in all those colors on my own. Okay, so if you have a hard time thinking of like what colors that you want to use together, what combination, changing the hue and the saturation really works well, because it changes all of those colors for you according to the percentage that you're changing. So if you have blue and you change the blue of 50% of saturation, all of the blues in your drawing get changed, and then all the other colors get changed the same amount of saturation as well. Okay, so here you can see it's just that reminder. Control C means that you're copying, and Control V means that you are pasting. All right, so again, I'm going to copy and paste. I should already have it copied, so I shouldn't have to copy again, but just in case, Remember, you have to select that area that you're going to be copying in order to copy and paste, okay? But since I already have it copied, I'm just going to continue to click Control V and then adjust the coloring, the hue and the saturation. Remember, if you're working in the free version, you have a tool at the top that looks like 3 circles that are overlapping. And then if you're working in the pro version, you have to click on Image, Adjust, and then the Hue Saturation button. So I'm going to go ahead and continue and complete the rest of the picture. I'm actually going to repeat my little Tide bottle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times so that I have a total of 8. Okay, and then each time that I repeat it, of course, I change the coloring, the hue, and the saturation of the coloring. So that way I don't have to go back in and color everything again. Okay, and use those colors. Try to make them as different as possible. We want them to be nice and bright and bold. I know I've got 2 bottles here, the top right and the bottom left. I changed the hue down instead of up, or the saturation down instead of up, and it kind of makes it look a little bit darker. Remember, we don't want our colors to be dull. We want them to be very bright. So the brighter, the better. Okay, and the reason why we're doing this is because we're working with pop art and the pop artist Andy Warhol. So Andy Warhol is known for not only using those like bold lines and those bright colors, but also for repeating his images over and over, because he actually used screen printing. And screen printing is a type of way to create like an image using a screen, and it's done very quickly, and you don't have to redraw or recreate anything because the screen has that imprint, kind of like a stencil for you to use. Okay, so here I'm just kind of aligning everything up, making it look nice and neat. I went in and I filled in the backgrounds for each of my little images. Okay, what you can do also here, it doesn't show up because my little tool window disappeared, but you can also merge all of your layers once you have all of your colors so that it's one big picture, and then go through and add some lines and a background color so that way it makes it look nice and neat. But once you're finished, you can click on the file button on the top left corner, click export, and save your image as a JPEG onto your computer.